Hello and welcome to Why We Are Christians. My name is Kent Philpott, pastor of Miller Avenue Baptist Church in Mill Valley, California. We're here at Marin TV in San Rafael, and we have a guest, Etienne Douglas. Did I pronounce Etienne right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Now I'm going to have trouble pronouncing your name, so we just know that Philpott is not. But anyway, so glad to have you, Etienne.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Yeah, we bumped into each other at the fair.
Yes.
At the Marin County Fair, when we were at the Marin TV booth, and there you were, and talked to you a little bit, and I said, I want to interview you.
Yes, yeah, and I was there. I was visiting the VR, which a friend of mine runs, John McLeod, and yeah, saw you there and recognized you from many years ago, working with my pastor, and so yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you invited me. I'm very honored to be interviewed, and don't worry about my name. I'm used to it. So
okay,
yeah.
Etienne. So, well, let's go back to your origins. Where were you born?
I was born in Vallejo.
Okay.
I was born in the 70s, mid 70s, 76 to be exact.
Oh, you're a young dude.
Yeah, yeah. I don't feel like it all the time, but yeah. So I was born July 5th, 1976.
Okay.
So bicentennial, one day after
Wow.
July 4th.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Yeah. So I was born in Vallejo, but I grew up in Petaluma.
In Petaluma.
Yeah.
Okay, where do you live now?
I live in San Rafael now.
Oh, you're in San Rafael.
Yeah.
Okay. So good. So you didn't have to travel a long ways to get to the studio.
No, not at all. Yeah. It's right in my backyard. Yeah.
All right. Okay, good. So tell us a little bit about your parents, your family.
So my mother and father, they let me start with my mom. So I believe she was born in Arizona, and then they moved to Bakersfield here in California. She grew up in Bakersfield. As soon as she turned 18, she left and went to Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is where my father's side of the family is.
Okay.
So they met, and had their courtship and whatnot. Got married, and then my mother was 23, I believe, and my dad was 21 when they had me. And then so once they moved up here, they moved up to Petaluma, and lived in Petaluma for a while. So that's why I grew up in Petaluma. So
Okay.
the hospital was in Vallejo. I was born in Kaiser, so that's why I was born in Vallejo. And then,
Brothers and sisters?
None.
None.
I'm an only child.
You're
yeah.
the only child.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Only child. So you went to high school in Petaluma?
No. So part of my story in my life is that I moved a lot when I was a kid. So I went to elementary school and junior high school in Petaluma. I would have went to Casa if I went to high school in Petaluma. But I ended up, my mother is in construction. So my mother was a carpenter.
Your mother was a carpenter?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was the first woman journeyman carpenter in California.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah. That's a whole nother story. Like she's retired now, but she was probably 30 plus years in the trades.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So around 1988, 89, I think the work started kind of drying up here. And then she moved to Los Angeles.
Where in LA?
Like Glendale area.
I went to Glendale College.
Oh, really? Okay.
I went to Glendale
Yeah.
College.
Yeah, we live right around, like, on Eagle Rock.
Yes.
Yeah, right around there.
Eagle Rock High School.
Yeah.
Glendale High School, Eagle Rock, you bet. We used to play
Yeah.
Eagle Rock in baseball and basketball.
Okay.
Been to
Yeah,
Eagle Rock and Glendale High many, many times. But yeah, I went 2 years to Glendale JC.
Okay. So yeah, so you know the area. So, but like back then, I mean, I'm sure it's true probably before, but in the '80s, Los Angeles had, was big time gang, a lot of gang time, and gangs were running rampant back. So my mom, being my mom, did not want me in Los Angeles to go to school there. So she sent me to Fresno, where my aunt and my grandmother lived at. So I went to junior high. I finished my 8th grade year in Fresno, junior high. So you have to kind of understand, like, I went from growing up in Petaluma, in a home. We had 4-bedroom home. I had my own bathroom, no brothers, no sisters. Had my own stuff. Went from that to living with my cousins and my aunt, and there were probably about at some point maybe 6 or 7 people in the house.
Wow.
So sharing a room with my cousins. So
that was a real difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did that. Went to junior high. Wasn't particularly fond of Fresno that much. And then one of my childhood friends and that I grew up with in Petaluma, his family had moved down to the Inland Empire, like around Rancho Cucamonga area, Murrieta, like San Bernardino area. I moved down there with him and lived with him for a year in high school, for my first year in high school. So I went to high school my freshman year down there. And then after a year, the situation really didn't work out. So came back to Fresno.
Okay.
Finished my high school years, sophomore, junior, and senior years in Fresno.
Now, did you play any sports?
I played.
You had to play football, man.
No, I wasn't always this big. I was a skinny guy. Up until like college.
Okay.
So, but my sport of choice was baseball.
Baseball.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your position?
I played outfield, catcher, and first base.
Is that right?
First base is probably my favorite position. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Well, baseball was my sport too, and I was a catcher.
Okay.
I wasn't good enough to do anything else.
Yeah, I like catching. It was fun. Yeah. First base. I think they put me on first base because I could.
You were tall.
I was tall, and I could catch almost everything. If it was in my vicinity, I could catch it. So yeah.
So that was your high school.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back a little bit. Now, in all the places that you were in, did you go to church any place ever?
So when I was growing up in Petaluma, I won't say here because of the North Bay, but when I was growing up, we didn't really go to church. My mother's side, my grandfather was a Pentecostal preacher.
Okay.
My grandmother since I've my entire life been in the church. And so when we would travel, when we would go visit them in Fresno, we would then go to church. So I would go to church with them. We went to Church of God in Christ, Fresno Temple. And so that was really the church I consider myself that I grew up in.
Okay.
Because I would go down there during the summers, and I would go to Vacation Bible School, and we learned Bible verses, and different things, and all the stuff you do at Vacation Bible School. So that's what I consider to be like the church I grew up in. Now, when I lived in Fresno, we went to church from time to time. My grandmother was very, very devout, and she prayed for us all the time. And my journey, I know, is partly due because of my grandmother praying for us so much.
Okay.
So our family has always been, my mother grew up, all her side of the family grew up going to church almost like 3 or 4 times a week.
Okay.
My dad's side, not so much. So my dad's side wasn't really churched. So and they never really had that connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your high school days. You graduated from what school again?
I graduated from Etienne High School.
Etienne. Where's that at?
That's in I want to say Fontana, the actual city that it was in. So which is so the big city is Rancho Cucamonga, which is in that area. So that's what I normally tell people is like Rancho Cucamonga, and Etienne was the high school that was in the jurisdiction where I was living at. So it was a big school.
It was. Well, you mentioned about the gang banging.
Mm-hmm.
I lived part of that life.
Oh, really?
I lived part of that life, and we had gang fights after the football games.
Wow.
And Belmont High School, which was largely a black school then, Lincoln, which was largely Hispanic, and then the ones I really didn't like were the West Hollywood.
Okay.
And the Japanese gangs.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the whole gamut.
Oh, the whole gamut, and
Yeah.
it was I was very fortunate to have survived that period. My youngest brother had to form his own gang to survive.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a difficult time in that particular area, and in the life that we had, and I hated it. I finally got out and went into the military and got away from Los Angeles.
Yeah. So you understand the whole Los Angeles thing with the gangs and everything, yeah. Now, I'm not. Did you ask me if I graduated from Etienne or?
Yeah. Did
no,
you?
I'm sorry. I didn't graduate from Etienne.
Okay.
I graduated from Hoover High School in Fresno.
Okay.
Yeah, Hoover High School in Fresno. And that was the reason my mom didn't want me in LA was because of the gangs. Because people were getting shot over just wearing a color,
Sure.
You wore blue in the wrong place, or red in the wrong place, you were gonna get beat up or shot,
Yeah.
So so that's why she kept me out of Southern California.
Yeah. Good for her.
Yeah. It was I didn't appreciate it at the time. I wanted to be with her, but
Sure.
yeah, it all worked out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Hoover High School in Fresno. Fresno is very huge, very big.
Yeah.
I don't know how they got over 100+ schools.
Yeah. I've been to Fresno many times.
Yeah, and the schools they have a very good educational system. So it was a very good school.
Okay. So you graduated from high school. What'd you do after that?
So after I graduated from high school, I went to college, and I went to University of California, Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara. My twin daughters graduated from that school.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Great school. Love that.
It is a great school. It's a very, very academic school and also a very big time party school.
Yeah.
Which if you're not paying attention, that can really take you under. So.
Well, and Santa Barbara. I mean, one of the most beautiful places in the United States. Santa Barbara. I love the place.
It's amazing. I mean, when you're on campus, the time I feel like they built the campus in another, like they had the campus at one place probably prior to the 80s, and then they moved the campus to like right off the beach.
Right off the beach. That's I know exactly where that is. Been there.
Yeah.
Great place.
Yeah, you can hear the waves crashing outside your dorm room. Yeah, amazing.
What was your study
I started in mechanical engineering.
In what?
Mechanical engineering.
Mechanical engineering.
Yeah. And then I got into computer science.
Computer science.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of the prerequisites of mechanical engineering also the prerequisites for computer science. So because this is part of my story, is like when I grew up, I had a lot of gadgets and tech stuff growing up. So when I went to computer science, like the first class, I was like, okay, this is really what I want to do, you know. So so then I switched.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the University of California, Santa Barbara. So what happened to you after that?
So I went to Santa Barbara. I got really immersed in the culture and the partying and all that. I joined a fraternity, and it really just kind of overwhelmed me. Like, and I had always going to church, and somebody had came up one time and they said, I told God when I turned 18 that I'm gonna follow Him. And as a young guy, I was like, that's good, because I always believed in God. I always believed in God. It was never, and I couldn't imagine like we all came from nothing, and there's always been a pattern to the world, and so it was I was never somebody that didn't believe in God. So, but living for God was a completely different.
Now, did you consider yourself a born again Christian at that point?
No, I did not.
Okay.
No.
Okay, that's the story.
Yeah.
This is important.
Yeah.
Because so many people went through that same kind of an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're growing up in a church somehow, you have this saying, okay, I believe in God and everything's okay. However,
mm-hmm.
That's not the whole story.
Yeah. I always knew that I wasn't following what I was supposed to be doing.
Okay.
And this is from just a lifestyle standpoint. Back then I thought, you have to consciously do this, and this to be a Christian.
Okay.
And I'll elaborate later what I'm talking about. So when I heard this person say, I told God I give Him my life when I turned 18. So I said, that's a great idea. I'll do that. I'll have all the fun and all the stuff, sin as much as I want, and then when I turn 18, I'll give my life over to God, right? Like I'm planning this.
That's the first time, Etienne, that I've ever heard a story like that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people probably have that same experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, I was at school, I was partying, I was doing the drugs, I was all this, and I was 18, but I didn't keep my promise, right? So I'm still out there doing all this stuff because I felt like I was having too much fun. And I distinctly remember a young lady, I was walking down the street in Santa Barbara, and she came up to me and she said, "Would you like to come to our church?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm good. And that, I look back at that as God was like, you gave me a promise. I'm giving you an opportunity. But I turned that opportunity down, right? So, and I continued in doing what I was doing, and then I had like what you would call like a mental breakdown.
A mental breakdown?
Yeah.
You're admitting this on television.
Yes. Because
good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And it was, and now that I look back at it, and I know it was the Holy Spirit and prepping me and prompting me for what was to come. So, because at some point I started just um, like everything I was doing was wrong. Like I had this strong feeling. Everything I was thinking was wrong. Everything I was doing was wrong, and I couldn't shake it. And so I had this breakdown, and so I left school, and I think my mother, I think I confided in her, or maybe even some of my friends had called her, and they were worried about me. I think I lost a lot of weight, and so she calls I think my mother was back up here at some point. I forget which. Anyway, she calls my aunt who was in the church, who was very much in the church. She comes and get me, and she takes me to church. And I'm going through like I'm not worthy, all this, and the pastor was preaching, and he said, "You can accept God's grace." And I was like, I was like, how can God give me grace after everything that I've done? After all this stuff, I turned my back on him, told him I was going to do this, didn't do it. How? And it just overwhelmed me. The Spirit overwhelmed me, and I accepted Jesus that day.
And how old are you then?
I was, let's see, 21?
Okay.
Yeah.
I became a Christian when I was 21.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's a good age, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and this was where now? And
this is in Los Angeles.
This is in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is in Los Angeles, and this weight like immediately lifted off of me. And it wasn't an explicit gospel presentation. Because I feel like the gospel presentation is you're a sinner, you've broken God's law. The only way to redemption is Jesus by the sacrifice. He made a way out, and you must believe, that He's Lord and God raised Him from the dead and all this. It wasn't an explicit presentation, but the Holy Spirit had prepped me so much prior to that they didn't need to tell me any of that. All they needed to tell me is that you need grace. God gives grace, and I just had to accept it. So, I mean, and I didn't know that at the time, but looking back as a more mature Christian now, I can tell, like that's what that was God working in my life.
Yeah.
So
you're 21 years old. You're in Los Angeles. What happened next?
So I left school. My mother, she actually took, God bless, she took a year off. We went and we went back to Fresno, and we worked with Habitat for Humanity for a year. So in the chapter in Fresno, they own a couple of houses for volunteers. So we stayed in one of their houses for a year, and my mom, being the construction person, ran the build that they were doing at the time. And then I was helping out with the build, but then I kind of went into the office one day, and they had computers in the office, and they had like a closet full of computers. And I said, hey, because people had donated a bunch of stuff. They had computer parts and stuff. People had donated, and I said, do you mind if I just like go through this and see what I can do with it? They're like, oh yeah, no problem. So then I started going through, and I started taking components from here, components from there, putting them together, and I built a computer. They had a network, which is a very old network by today's standards. So I took the computer and I put it on the network. There was a guy who was working for them, who was their computer person, and he was doing it for free, right? And then he saw me doing it, and he was like, "Oh, great! Like I can show him how to do stuff, and I don't have to spend as much time coming down here and doing stuff. So he would teach me. He would help me. You know, he would show me different things when I got, you know, kind of ran in the sun, and he would show me, oh, okay, do this. Oh, this is where you go on the internet and you download this to get this working. So I eventually became like the network administrator for Habitat for Humanity.
Okay.
And that led into the career that I do today.
You're still doing that work?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're 21 years old, you're in Fresno with your mother, you're learning these computer skills.
Mm-hmm.
What happened after that? We just got a couple minutes, but take us a little bit farther.
Okay. So I'm learning computer skills. Some people who are part of the, are board members and supporters of Habitat, they then say, oh, well, can you come over to my house? I got a computer issue. And this is when I realized, like, wow, okay, this can be, this can be a job. I can make money doing this. So I started doing that. And this whole time I wasn't going to church. I would consider myself saved.
Okay.
Because
a born-again Christian.
Yes, a born-again Christian. Because my mind was always still on God, and I just didn't have any direction, right?
Okay.
I kind of call this point in my life like the wilderness. So I wasn't going to church, but I consider myself a born-again Christian. Maybe a year or so goes by, I got my own place. Something happened where I left that place, and family issues, and I'm kind of living with my cousin, sleeping on her couch, and my grandmother, and then my biological dad. So I grew up with my stepdad because my biological dad was kind of in and out of jail when I was younger. So my biological dad had gotten out for many years and was living up in San Rafael. When he was out, I would go we'd visit each other. So it wasn't like he was estranged.
No.
Okay. It was just, there was periods of time when he went into jail, we couldn't see each other. So
you're up here in San Rafael with your biological father.
Yes.
Okay. And you're how old about now?
About 21, 22.
21, 22. Okay. All right. Etienne, we're gonna have to end this program.
Okay.
But don't go anyplace.
Okay.
We're going to do another one in just a little bit. All right. We've reached the end of the first program with Etienne Douglas, and we're going to be talking to him some more. So until the next time, so long.